into Stewart Spotlight Podcast live with your host, William Stewart Jr. Tune in every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube. With real conversations and fresh perspective. Would you like to be a guest? Give us a call at 888-552-1944. Today's guest, Stephen Barbie. The topic, passion to purpose, struggle to strength. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Stewart Spotlight Podcast. Now your host, William Stewart Jr. Good evening and welcome to Stewart Spotlight Podcast. My name is William Stewart Jr. and I am your host today. I want to thank you for tuning in for another exciting episode, and I hope everyone had a wonderful week and getting ready for the weekend, because you know the weekend go by so fast. The blink of an eye, it's back to work Monday. Today is Friday, May the 15th, 2026. I got a little secret for you guys. I wasn't supposed to tell you, but I just can't hold things. A group of people has been working with me, and they're going to be placing Stewart Spotlight on TikTok and Twitch at the same time as YouTube and Facebook, and I will be able to read the messages if a person were to reply. So stay tuned. I'll keep you guys informed about that. Anyway, you know I need your help. It's that time of the program that I'm asking you for your support. I need you to do this. Hello, my name is William Stewart Jr. I'm the host of Stewart Spotlight Podcast, which airs every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube. A talk show based on faith, life, culture, and personal growth. I would love to have your support by pressing the like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Make sure you turn on your notifications so therefore every time you hear this, you know Stewart Spotlight Podcast is live. Would you like to be a guest on my show? Give us a call at 888-552-1944. Once again, thank you for your support, and may God continue to bless you. That's right. I need your support. Make sure you leave a comment, give us some feedback on how you're enjoying the program. You know, I get a message every week from my friend Bud, and some very interesting messages he sends me every week, and I'm always picking one out of the several messages, but I think I like this one. It says, when the hand of God is in your life, no one, nobody can stop you from being blessed. Now that's kind of deep there. And thank you, Bud, for giving me that inspirational. Everyone, today's guest is Stephen Barbie. I'm sorry, I pronounced this name wrong. But Stephen Barbie is going to be on today. We're going to talk about passion to purpose and struggle to strength. That's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to take a small break. And after this break, we're going to have my guest to come on, and we're going to have a little conversation with him. Stay tuned. Yes, that's right. Visit my website, stewartspotlight.com. If you're interested in some of those items, feel free to purchase them. Welcome back to Stewart Spotlight Podcast. Once again, my name is William Stewart Jr. And today's guest is Stephen Barbee. I'm going to give you a little history about Mr. Barbee before we bring him on. He's a devoted husband to Deirdre Anderson Barbee, a father of 5, grandfather of 5, with over 20 years of impactful services, such as the lead shelter manager at City Union Mission, program coordinator at the Metro Lutheran Ministry, community outreach manager at Connection for Success, a court advocate for Clay County Courts, and the list goes on, with a passion of a spiritual transformation, serving as a chaplain at Lawndale Christian Health Center in Chicago, men's division director at the Pacific Garden Mission. I'm not going to continue. I'm going to let him talk about himself a little bit. Without further ado, let's welcome my guest, Mr. Barbee. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello. Great to be here on tonight, William. I appreciate the opportunity to share my journey and some of my stories, but appreciate the opportunity this evening.
No, I want to thank you for coming on and to help share some of your history and your glory and all of the above. First of all, how are you doing? And how is your family?
I'm doing great.
How is your family doing?
Family's great. Wife, grandkids, daughters, everybody, God's blessing. I got to give a shout out to our youngest daughter, Howard University. She's second year, sophomore, and listen, 4.0. So I just want to say congratulations.
Congratulations.
My other daughter, Bria, she just finished her semester, going back to school, mother, being successful. So to my daughters, I love you. Keep up the good work.
Congratulations. I was told that you were just married about 22 months ago, remarried?
Well, it was 29 months
29
ago.
months?
Yeah, 29
who's counting,
months.
right?
Yeah, but who's counting, I tell you. Yes,
okay.
My lovely wife, Deirdre Anderson Barbee, I tell you, the love of my life, support. We walk together, we talk together, and one of the blessings thing I shared, we pray every day. Ever since our engagement. And so every morning and every night we do pray together. So prayer is the foundation of the Barbee family household.
Sounds good to me. Well, we have so much to talk about, and I'm going to try to squeeze it in as much as possible. So if I be jumping around, just bear with me. As I mentioned earlier, today's topic is passion to purpose and struggle to strength. So yes. How many siblings do you have first?
So I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. And so I'm the middle, second oldest son, third oldest child.
Okay.
And so, and then I had 3 younger brothers, and between me and the last 3, there's a 4-year gap, and there's twins at the end.
Okay. And your parents?
My father's still living. My dad has just turned 88 last month. Been preaching for 67 years.
Wow.
And my mother was an educator. But she passed away in 2005.
Okay. And you say your father's still preaching, correct?
Well,
he's semi-retired.
He says, yes, semi-retired. He just stepped into the position of pastor emeritus at Victory Bible Church here in Lawrence, Kansas.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to start at the age of 15. Ooh, make you go back a little bit, huh? So now, around the age of 15, while you was in high school, you had a habit at one point, correct? You was drinking beer, weed, and stuff like that?
Yeah. So there at the age of 15, living in Lawrence, Kansas, and back then in the state of Kansas, you could buy beer at the age of 18. So, of course, hanging out with the upperclassmen, I started drinking. And, back then, drinking in that atmosphere and crowd was fun. How drunk could you get? And peer pressure, you laughed and everything of that sort. So, at the age of 15, that door of addiction in my life was open.
Yeah, because I was just about to say, was it peer pressure? I'm assuming it was because you had to keep up with the crew.
Peer pressure, want to be accepted, the in crowd,
Hmm.
but I always ask myself, what is the in crowd? People say
Okay.
keep up with the Joneses. Who is the Joneses? So
Right.
back then it was just trying to fit in.
Okay. Now, did you have any influencers during that time?
Well, most of my influence at that time, of course, was family.
Hmm.
Uh, some of my positive influence was the opportunity of playing sports because I always loved, I played football, baseball,
Hmm.
basketball, and ran track. And so it was kind of living a double life, even at a young age,
Hmm.
that I could play and be successful on the athletic field, but then still struggle, the Friday night keg parties, let's go to the park, a 6 pack, a 12 pack here.
Okay. I was just about to say because so I'm assuming, well, when I was reading some of the things that you had a struggling period from like 82 to about 88 uh, with this peer pressure and being accepted to your friends, with your friends.
That is so true. And, sometimes I share, and as we continue on this journey tonight, it'll probably be broken down into 4 Ds:
And I was going to bring that up.
dreams,
don't,
dreams, destruction,
don't
disgrace.
don't bring it up. I was going to bring that up next. But give me a moment with that
Okay.
one.
All right. Okay. We won't drop that one
Right, we're
on them
going to
yet. It's
jump the
too early.
balloon,
It's
right?
too early. We won't drop that one. But yeah, the around 82,
Okay.
the as I said, the early 80s. By
Mm-hmm.
this time, I had graduated
Mm.
with my addiction.
Okay.
Uh, the smoking marijuana, getting high, as we
Mm-hmm.
say, and then
Mm-hmm.
drinking, and then of course dibbling and dabbling with the harder liquor.
Mm.
That where some of the struggle really began because I opened the door to something that I thought I could control, but in
Mm-hmm.
reality, it was controlling me.
So now going back, you enjoy sports such as baseball, football, running track, and basketball, and things of that nature. Now that was all in high school, correct?
High school, and then eventually, I was had the opportunity to play sports in college.
Okay.
When I played football at Lawrence High School, Lawrence, Kansas, we called ourselves the Chesty Lions.
Hmm.
We was used to undefeated seasons, going 9-0 state champs. And so my senior year, I was a flanker, punt returner, kickoff returner, defensive back. I got my first uh, scholarship offer from Independence Community College there in Independence, Kansas. And so that was the spring of 82.
So now that scholarship was under what sports? Was it football, basketball?
Well, that was football.
That
Yeah,
was
we'll
football.
get
Okay.
more, but that was football in the spring. And
Okay.
so in between February and August, I played baseball. And so I stepped back on the baseball field and I hit 475 with 10 home runs. And one particular day, a
Mm-hmm.
coach was in the stands from Highland Community College.
Mm.
And Coach Heinrichs came. I think I went 3 for 3 or 4 for 4. And he came out of the stands and he gave me his last scholarship to play baseball at Highland Community College. And so that's where I went to college on a baseball scholarship.
That reminds me because I believe Michael Jordan did something like that. He was playing basketball, then he went over to baseball. But I guess that
Yes, yes,
baseball
he did.
didn't
Yeah,
last too
yeah.
long there. So
Right,
he
right.
went back to
No,
the basketball.
there you go. Yeah.
Okay. So now, could you explain to me? Did you have any future goals when you were growing up that you wanted to become, or you wanted to play sports, or just career goals?
If I can, I think the first D would be a good point here in my
Sure.
dreams
Sure.
because I always wanted to play some type of collegiate sports. And the opportunity came going to Highland on a baseball scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, first semester away from home. I'm away from the covering of my uh, biblical Christian foundation, no longer having to go to Sunday school afternoon service,
Mm-hmm.
and no longer. And, my 4 years in college, I only attended church twice. So then my first semester in college, partying much more, no discipline, no accountability. And my very first semester at Highland Community College in Highland, Kansas, uh, I lost my scholarship. I flunked out of school with a 1.43 GPA.
Is it because of you were hanging with the wrong crew, the wrong crowd, and getting high? It just
Yeah, and just that door of addiction, and by this time, the blackouts were starting. You know,
okay.
do you know what you did last night? I wondered, I pondered, right? What happened? And so some of that shame, because I would wake up, and you could see the students in the like the union and whispering. You walk into the dorm, your eyes are red, you're hungover, and you walk in and it gets quiet. You kind of suspect. I think they're talking about me and whatever I did last night. And so with that taking place, I lost my scholarship, and I came home that semester down and depressed. And I don't know if your listeners have ever lied to themselves, but I did. And so that particular semester in between, I started calling other colleges that had recruited me. And I was like, Highland Community College is not a good school for Barbie. They don't understand me. They don't want to play me. And one particular day, William, my dad was ear hustling, and he hung the phone up and called me upstairs. And in the midst of calling me upstairs, my father said this, and I'll never forget it. He said, "Son, no, you're going back to Highland. And there's 3 people that you need to face." He says, "You need to face your classmates, your teammates, and the last one got me. You need to face yourself." And so I had to go back to Highland Community College. I had to pay that semester. I didn't have a scholarship. I had to pay for my books, tuition, the whole 9. Why? Because the choices I made had consequences.
Okay, let's talk about the 4 Ds then, so we can see how that ties in with everything.
Sure. So, I always say the hashtag of my life story is dreams, destruction, disgrace, and deliverance. Dreams, destruction, disgrace, and deliverance. And I believe before the night is over, William, that we will touch all of those Ds.
All right. Okay. So now you lost your scholarship. You was a failure. You felt you was a failure. Your father encouraged you to go back
Yes.
to school and face the consequences, regardless what it is. And you got inspired.
I got inspired. That spring semester, I couldn't play baseball because I was ineligible. So I walked back on the football. And because football in the spring, there's no real games, I walked back on and I got football fever again. GPA went up to a 3.2, got my scholarship back. And so now it's football. The dream, I bounced back, right? The dream. And so I always tell people this, that get people around you that sees in you what you don't see in yourself. And that's potential. And so my coach, Marty Allen, there at Highland Community College, I was playing flanker, and our tailback blew his knee out first game. Second team tailback wasn't getting the job done. And then in the third game, my coach called me to the office. He said, "Hey, Barbie, didn't you play running back in high school?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Would you be willing to switch from flanker to tailback?" And I did. And I can sit here with a smile on my face that the very first game as a college tailback, I broke the school rushing record at Highland Community College.
Wow.
278 yards, 29 carries, and 3 touchdowns. And what's today's date? Today is May 15, 2026.
Right.
That record still stands today.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So, now I'm on the football field excelling, scoring touchdowns. I was kind of living a double life because on the football field, I'm excelling, but at night, the drinking and the drugs and the partying just really escalated in my life.
What's the worst drug that you ever took?
Ooh, crack cocaine, powdered heroin was the 2 drugs that I indulged in. Yes.
Now, while you were in college, you were going to church as well?
like I said, I only went to church two
Twice,
times my
right.
whole my whole 4 years in college. And a uniqueness of that potential and opportunity. Uh, my freshman year as a tailback, I led the nation all-purpose running. My sophomore year, I was third in the country. I used to average 178 yards a game. So my sophomore year, I was a junior college All-American. I mean, I was getting recruited by Stanford University, Northwestern University, Weber State, Montana State, just to name it a few big-time colleges that was recruiting me for football.
Wow. And you never wanted to pursue it from that point on?
Well, I was still living some of the dream. I was able to get a full ride football scholarship to Peru State College. It was a small NAIA school in Nebraska. They paid for all of my schooling, everything. And so I, took the first full ride, and I was able to go there and to continue my career in football and baseball.
So now, what year did you graduate
From high school?
from college?
You're getting ahead of the story
Yeah,
now.
no, I'm just trying to. I'm a back, but go ahead.
Yeah, I went to Peru in spring of '85. I did not get my undergrad until 1999.
Okay. So now, basically, all this was going on in high school.
High school and college.
In
yeah.
college, right? So now, you finish high school.
Yes.
So now we're moving on to college.
Moving on to college.
And
I'm there. Go ahead.
And how were you impact in the college arena versus the high school? I'm doing a comparison. So was it?
I mean, I took it to another level.
Okay.
I mean, in high school, I was only a honorable mention all league. College, I was all American. I mean, when I was I led the nation in all purpose running. I mean, at the top of junior college, all Americans averaging 178 yards a game, which means rushing and receiving. I was at the top. There was nobody above me,
Okay.
And so that's the wild part about it, that Stephen Barbee from Joplin, Missouri, that grew up in Lawrence, Kansas. I mean, when you think about all the junior colleges across this country that plays football, I was at the top. Yeah,
You was it.
yeah, it's wild. It sometimes it blows my mind that I was at that level, and I didn't really realize it until after the fact, when I go back to college, my junior college reunions, and my former teammates say, "Man, Barbee, you was the best running back that I ever played with." And I'm like, "Come on!" And they were like, "No, you was the best." And so I guess I had the talent, that's for sure.
Well, I'm just really surprised that no one really pushed you toward that football career.
Well, things back then was a little bit different.
Okay.
It's not like today. I could have had my own website with my highlight films, and I could have been pushing out. Back then, we had to depend on our coaches. We had to depend on the mail. We had to depend on, sometimes them reel-to-reels would snap, and then they had to splice them back together. I remember one of my best games, it spliced, right? One of my best runs, and all of a sudden it gets blurry, and next thing you know, I'm in the end zone, and I know them coaches are like, "What happened?" So it was a different time and era back then. The way recruiting was done, it was more old way. They wrote the recruiting letters, you send it back. A lot of the communication correspondence was via mail or telephone.
So did you have any mentors back then?
Back then, I didn't really recognize and embrace mentorship. When I had the coaches that coached me more off the field than on the field. When I had those coaches, they heard about me, they called me into the office, you need to slow down, and I knew what they were saying, my partying, I needed to slow down.
Okay. So at what point did you start slowing down?
It wasn't. It was a gradual slowdown.
Okay.
And the reason why I put it that way is because of my addiction. Now it was out of control.
Mm-hmm.
My full ride scholarship at Peru State College, I didn't lose it. I got kicked out of school
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of one of my blackouts. Still to this day, I don't know what happened. Only thing I remember is that the campus police was in my dorm room, and he told me I had to go to the dean's office.
Huh.
And this is the spring of May of 1986. And I go to the dean's office. This was my dilemma. The dean says, either we kick you out or we're going to charge you. I said, kick me out. I don't know what I did. I know one thing, I didn't kill anybody. I wouldn't be on this platform tonight. And so at that moment in my life, I chose to regroup, dating a young lady, and I ended up moving to Chicago. And so now left the Midwest, let me get to the big city, let me get a fresh start. And so it was that was a gradual slowdown, but I didn't stop.
So you were still doing it, but not as heavy, I should say.
Well, yeah, because I'm in Chicago. I don't know where to get marijuana. I don't know where to get the powder cocaine. I don't know, but I do know this here, that an addict can find drugs in the middle of nowhere, and eventually I did find it.
Okay. So now you moved back to Chicago. You met this young lady. What was from there?
Well, meeting the children, the mother of my children, there is a destruction. After moving to Chicago and getting reestablished, breaking up with the young lady, I went through, that's when I got introduced to crack cocaine. And so I got introduced to that strong drug of addiction. And now it's the later part of the 80s and going into like 89, 90. I lost everything in Chicago due to my active using of crack cocaine. I mean, it was destroying my life. I lost everything. Eventually, I found myself homeless. And it was June of 1991, I walked into Pacific Garden Mission. And that's where I surrendered my call to the ministry. That's when I was set free from drugs and alcohol. And then I met the mother of my children there in 91.
So I believe from 91 to 2000, you were clean.
Oh, yeah. Clean. It was in October 91. I surrendered my call to the ministry. I preached my first message there in November. We got married in June of 92. And then, life began to settle down for me. I became a father and taking care of my kids. Went back to school, got my undergrad in communications from Trinity International University. And then full-time ministry. I was there at Lawndale Christian Health Clinic. You mentioned some of that in the introduction, where it was a Christian clinic on the west side of Chicago. I was there for about 3 years, and then I left there and went back to Pacific Garden Mission on staff as the first ever African-American director of the men's division. So now as we're getting later into 1999, 2000, that's where we are right now.
So now let me go back to 91. Do you recall your first sermon, and what was it about?
Oh yeah. My first sermon was it was a message about salvation. Yeah, it was a message about salvation. Yeah, and it was at my dad's church here in Lawrence, Kansas. And it was quite interesting because I came in from Chicago and my dad let me preach. And after I preached that message, my dad said, I'm not planning this. He said, I just really sensed that the Lord has called my son to preach the gospel. And the church voted that Sunday and they licensed me that Sunday there at Victory Bible Church in Lawrence, Kansas.
So you did your sermon, and
Yeah.
then they licensed you the same day.
Same
Wow.
day,
Wow.
same day. Yeah,
Never
same
heard
day.
that. Never heard that before. Now, that's
Look,
a first.
yeah, I know, right? I wasn't expecting that, I
Oh,
wasn't expecting that, but by God's grace, God moved on my dad's heart, the leadership at the church that time, the vote, and there was no nays, it was all yays. So God is faithful to the call.
so now, now moving forward,
Yeah,
we in the 2000.
yeah,
Something happened in 2000.
yeah. The dreams and destruction, and then the disgrace. Um, so me and my children's mother, we grew apart, and um, it was a tough time for me. I went through a separation and divorce during that time in my life. She packs up, she moves to St. Louis with my son and daughter. And, I had not picked up drugs for 10 years because I'm also an ordained minister, right? And as I was working my master's degree in human service administration, I'll never forget, it was a Wednesday night, and I come home all alone, and I look around the house, and I'm there by myself. And an old voice, now mind you, licensed, ordained minister, pastor's son, former All-American. And this voice comes and says, "You haven't had a beer in over 10 years. And so I got up and I went to the liquor store that night. Didn't think much of it, but I didn't realize I had literally opened my door of addiction once again. The next Wednesday, went to class, and I went straight to the liquor store and I bought me 240 ounces. And as I drank those 240 ounces that night, a voice came and says, "You haven't had a hit of crack in over 10 years. And this is what it said: you deserve one." And that particular night, I ended up smoking over $700 worth of crack cocaine. And literally, and when I say literally, the door of addiction and darkness entered back into my life.
So you were going down the right path, and after 2000, the devil was working
Yeah.
and enticing. Here, try this. Here, try this.
Yeah.
And the flesh is weak. So
Yeah.
therefore you just, okay, there's nothing at home for me, and the devil just took control of you.
Yes.
What brought you back?
Well, it wasn't an easy path or journey back. 2000, 2001, I came back to Kansas. And I said, if I can just get back around family, this too shall pass. Well, not realizing that my mom had been diagnosed with cancer, I moved back to Lawrence, Kansas. Now, an addict can find drugs in the middle of nowhere. And by this time, I'm bringing my active crack behavior to Kansas. And I found crack here in Kansas. And so from 2001 up to 2008, my struggle had a grip on me. I used to, my MO was get back in church, right? The gifts and calling of God are without repentance. So I would get back in church, but then the call kept getting louder and louder. So from 2001 to 2008, my life cycle was church, homelessness, addiction, treatment. Church, I get back in church, and then all of a sudden, I'd be homeless, addiction, treatment. And so from 2001 to 2008, I would bounce from city to city. I bounced from Lawrence, Kansas to Kansas City, from Kansas City to Topeka, Kansas, from Topeka, Kansas to Des Moines, Iowa. I will always go, but when I go, I will always end up high on some type of mind altering drug.
So, I believe, and this is just my belief. Okay, I'm not gonna go into that. So now you were clean, then you went astray. Then you're trying to find yourself. Sorry about that. Now you're trying to find yourself back again. And
Yeah.
how did that come back? Because was it a voice that was speaking to you?
Well, as you introduced me tonight, it was passion to purpose, and then it was struggle to strength. So if we part just for a moment there, July of 2005, in the midst of my addiction, I went to a particular location, Lawrence, Kansas, knocked on the door, no answer. I come back 2 days later, July 22nd, 2005, knocked on the door. I went into this particular drug spot, came out with some crack cocaine, and then we fast forward. That was July 2005. My mom passed away in August of 2005. It was December 21st, 2007. I'm living in Topeka, Kansas, back in church, working, and two gentlemen came on my job and I said, "Are you Stephen Barbie?" And I said, "Yes." They take me outside. They said, "You're under arrest." And I said, "You got the wrong person." And they showed a picture of me and they said, "Is that you?" And I said, "Yes." So I turned around. They put the handcuffs on me. I said, "What am I charged with?" And they just blew me away. They said 5 kilos of crack cocaine. They said, "You're facing a 10 to life federal prison sentence." The reason why I went back to that July 2005, that particular drug spot was under federal surveillance. And that 3 minutes that I walked in looped me into a 13-man federal drug conspiracy that I got arrested in December of 2007.
So now you were fighting this, and they did charge you.
Yes, they did.
And they charged you for how many months?
So I was out on bond because I did get released that day in December. So from December 2007 up until June of 2008, I was out on pretrial services. One particular night in Topeka, I chose to go out and smoke some crack one night, and I drank some vodka, trying to ease. I was dealing with my depression and darkness at this time. How they caught up in a 13-man federal drug conspiracy. And the next day I went and called the number and I had to give a drug test. And of course it was dirty. And I had a misdemeanor case in Lawrence, Kansas, and they dropped the charges. But then the prosecutor said, "Your Honor, Mr. Barbie has a federal warrant." And the U.S. Marshals came and arrested me. And so I tell people, June of 2008 was the day that I got locked up, but that was the day that Jesus Christ freed me up. And because of that incarceration, from June of 2008 up until August 2009, I was going back and forth to court. August of 2009, I got sentenced to 70 months in federal prison. And that was my journey of God revealing his passion and purpose in my life. Because through that experience, I began to go back to my roots. I began praying. I began reading his word, and not just reading it, but I began to apply his word. And so my journey into the system was God redefining me. And he says, son, there's something inside of you that because of your experience is going to be revealed. And so out of that experience, yeah, my struggle became my strength, but my passion to purpose was revealed as I went through the federal prison system.
So therefore, you had time to regroup, just
Yeah.
totally, and
Yes.
get. So I can say that basically that was a blessing.
Yes,
because
it was.
he pulled you out of that environment and set
Yes,
you
he did.
down.
Yes.
And set you
Yes.
down to make you think.
Yes. And
Okay.
not only think, but to hear the voice of God.
Yes.
To hear
Okay.
the voice of God, because there's a scripture, and we quote it all the time, Romans 8:28. And God said in his word, it says, all things work together for good to them who love God and are called according to his purpose. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in federal prison there in Forest City, Arkansas, and God said, read it again, son. And I read it, and it says, all things work together for good. And he said, son, is all things good? And I said, no, Father. He said, but all things work together for good. And he said, to those who love God. In that whole passage of scripture, the only command that he gives us to those who loves God and are called according to his purpose. And so God said, son, to the degree that you love me will be the degree that I show you my purpose being lived out in your life. He says, if you start loving me, he said, I'm getting ready to show you my purpose lived out through your life. And so out of that day, Passion to Purpose was birthed inside of prison, and I began to serve with passion in prison.
Wow. That's a testimony right there by itself. Now,
Thank you.
were you able to share some of your wisdom, not the substance, drug substance, but the spiritual part of yourself in while you were incarcerated?
Man, I get Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was in there for something he didn't do. I was in there for something I did do. So let's get that straight. But let me tell you. So in prison, the environment, you have to do work details. You could be on the maintenance crew in the kitchen, of all places, because I went to 2 different prisons, Pekin, Illinois. Then they transferred me to Forest City, Arkansas. And both of those prisons, William, and those listening, of all places that I could have did my work detail, it was in religious services. So I'm able to fellowship daily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to serve the broader faith, because I got to see so many different faiths. I got to see the Wiccas and the Santerias and the Muslims, the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelites, the Jews, the Native Americans. I got to sit there and watch them exercise their faith. And so I was the one setting the rugs for the Muslims. I was the one setting the candles for the Santerians. I was the one setting up, the sage for the Native American sweat lodge. And so I'm getting this free education, a religious study, and people are paying thousands of dollars in different seminaries for religious studies. And God placed me as a clerk in religious services. And so it was a great journey. I got to give a shout out to Chaplain Ford there at Forest City, Arkansas. He saw the call of God in my life. And God's favor was on my life. That sometimes that they would lock down, and Chaplain Ford said, I can do out count over here. And so he would do out count. And so I didn't have to go back to my housing unit. And I never forget, he's retired now, so he won't get in trouble for this. I remember a couple of times he would say, "You need to go in there and clean my office." And the phone would be sitting there off the hook. And he said, "Make sure you hang that phone up, but make sure nobody's there." So I would pick up his phone and I say, "Hello," and he'd call my family. He would let me get free phone calls. Right. And then he'll, "Brother Steve, make sure you clean that desk and hang that phone up." And so it's so interesting because in the midst of my journey, even to this day, because of his love for me and because of his mentorship and because he poured into my life every single day before 7:00 a.m., I receive a text of encouragement from Chaplain Ford.
So you were in the right place, but you was in the right place at the wrong time.
Yes. Yeah.
I was trying to say that right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, sir.
So now, after 70 months that you were sentenced for, but you only served 44. How did that happen?
Well, because in the federal system, they had what they call the RDAP, the Residential Drug and Alcohol Program. And I recognized I needed to face me. I'll never forget this when Judge Lungstrom sentenced me in August. This is what he said. It's on the record. He said, "Mr. Barbee, you do not fit the type. You know your father, you're educated." And this is what he said before he rendered his sentence. He said, "Mr. Barbee, I pray that whatever demons you're struggling with, that you face them after I give you this sentence." And so because I was able to get into the drug program, I began to unpack past trauma, past triggers. Why did I want to be accepted? What is peer pressure, right?
Okay.
And so I began to unpack not just my drug addiction, but my thinking. I began to deal with the whole me, right? What triggers me? What was making me depressed? Why do I need to be accepted? And I think some of that would go back to playing sports because the athletes love to hear the roar of the crowd. And so as I begin to deal with that, it's like, son, you're not going to have the roar of the crowd, but you're still going to have you. And so I dealt with that. And by God's grace in the federal system, I was able to get 11 months off my sentence. And I was released January 18th of 2012 here in Kansas City, Missouri.
Wow. So now you've been released.
Yes.
After serving X amount of months.
Yes.
Incarcerated.
Yes.
You were entitled to learn a different religion inside the place of holding.
Yes.
I would say the place of holding.
Yes.
And what did you learn? Well, I know what you learned, but how did you use that incarcerated once you got out?
Man, that's a great question. That's a great segue because I asked God just one question. I didn't question. I asked God, I said, "God, why did you go to such extreme with me?" And this is what he said. He said, "Son," he said, "the greater the call, the greater the fall." He said, "You had to fall this great to know I put a call on your life." And because now I've answered the call and I'm walking in the call, I begin to serve in prison. I begin to help. I begin to encourage. I begin to empower. And because of that is what drives my engine today. Okay. Serving, helping, encouraging, empower. And so when I got out, God just began to open doors. My first place of employment, City Union Mission here in Kansas City, Missouri. God took me full circle from Pacific Garden Mission all the way back to City Union Mission. And so then after that, I was an interim pastor at Grace United Community Ministries here in Kansas City. And then I worked at Metro Lutheran Ministries as a program coordinator. And it was at Metro Lutherans, my supervisor, we got a grant from Missouri Department of Corrections. And this is what he says. He says, "This grant is for people getting out of prison." He said, "What better person to put over this grant than you? Because you're going to understand those that walk through our doors." And so I began to to do life skills and begin to prep them with resume preparation and to empower them with life principles. And I'll never forget, I was at a community event one day, and a good friend of mine from Leavenworth Federal Prison said she had a dilemma. And she said, Mr. Barbie, my guest speaker, he's ghosted me. We had a graduation here at the federal prison. I'm looking for a speaker. Do you know a speaker? And I said, yeah. And she said, who? I said, me. She said, no, Mr. Barbie, I need a speaker. I said, no, I can come. She said, no, Mr. Barbie, my speakers that I usually have for graduation needs to be returning citizen, those that have been to prison. And I said, Miss Thiessen, I've been to prison. And her face lit up. She said, I never knew that about you. And so Corey Thiessen was the first one to get me to go back inside of prisons to speak, to do training and other opportunities. And so then I left there, Connections to Success. And then I had the opportunity to work for Prison Fellowship Ministries. I was the field director for 2 years over the whole state of Kansas and Missouri. And William, opportunities did not come because I played college football. These opportunities come because of my struggle to my strength. People just, and that's the joy. That's the joy.
And that was the segue I was going to lead into, because the passion to purpose.
Yes.
Where it came down to your struggle to strength.
Yes. That's it. And out of all of that and everything that I've experienced since being released from prison, January 18, 2012, it's been a joy ride where God has taken me. The Fatherhood Conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I had the opportunity to speak there, and then the Fatherhood Conference there in Richmond, Virginia, the National Native American Child Support Conference in San Diego, California. It's not because I'm the All-American, it's because of my struggle. And my struggle brings strength to the hearers. Spoke in prisons in the state of Kansas, Ohio, Arizona. I've spoken to every prison in the state of Kansas. And so God is faithful. He has been faithful. And everything that I do is tied to my passion. It's tied to my purpose. But I have to say this, I give it all to the glory of God.
And you are a senior pastor as we speak.
Boy, you did your homework. I don't know if you did a cheat sheet or what, but yeah, I did mention my father's 88, been preached for 67 years. And just last month, I became the senior pastor of Victory Bible Church in Lawrence, Kansas.
What mission do you have of being a senior pastor now?
It's still carrying the same passion and purpose. Okay. To take the foundation that my father has laid and built upon it. It's kind of like David, right? David had the vision, but Solomon got to build the temple. Not that my father hasn't had ministry, but in this time and age, ministry is way different than when we grew up. There ain't no afternoons. I ain't never heard of churches now having afternoon services or BTU or WYP, WW. Some of those things are gone. So how do we capture the tradition and the foundation? And I believe that what God has laid on my heart for Victory Bible Church is to have communities within the community. So what are you saying? If someone's getting out of prison, we got a community for you. If someone's a single mother, there's a community for you. If someone's struggling with drug addiction, there's a community there. And so building a community within the community in God's kingdom.
I like that. A community within a community. Now, what about your outreach? How are you structuring your outreach?
For me, ministry is people. Ministry is people. For me, my wife would tell you, she said, she'll tell a waitress, don't fall for it. And it's just connecting with people. You know, I get it all the time. I told a young man last week we were doing outreach. I said, you don't have to call me pastor. I said, just introduce me as Stephen, because sometimes pastor brings hurt. Pastor brings trauma. And so it's just being real and touching people. And I've learned one of the greatest ministry that any believer can have is this here, the ministry to listen.
Why is there so many leaders are dictators?
You know, somewhere we got it twisted. We mess things up. Christ came to serve, not to be served. And a lot of times, certain churches have elevated their pastor to a small g God. And I'm just keeping it real. That's where it's not like that in the kingdom. We all say at the foot of the cross, the ground is exceedingly level. We're brothers and sisters in the Lord. There ain't gonna be no pastors in heaven, no bishops. We're gonna be brothers and sisters in the Lord. And so I've just learned to meet people where they're at. My wife says, how do you get so much information out of a stranger? I said, the reason why I can get so much out of a stranger is before I leave, I've made a friend.
Okay, Mr. Barbie. It's been very interesting, and I really want to thank you for coming on. So would you like to leave any message for the viewers who are listening as we speak?
Sure. I really, first of all, William, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come on tonight and just be transparent and just share my struggle and how it connects to my strength. You know, there may be a loved one that you're saying you get ready to throw your hands up and give up on them. Don't give up on them. Don't give up on it. Keep praying, keep praying, keep praying, keep loving. Because as you continue to pray, as God says in the book of Daniel, I heard your prayers when you first sent them. And so as you pray for your loved ones, it may be your son, your daughter that are struggling with drugs and alcohol. It may be your grandson or your granddaughter. It may be your husband or your wife. Keep praying, because the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And the reason why I'm sitting here on tonight is because I had a praying father. I have a praying father that knew that God had heard his prayers. And not only did he hear his prayer, but he knew that God had answered them. Even today, I spoke to my father, and this is what he said: son, I'm praying for you. What joy it is that knowing that your prayers have been answered. So to that one that is wanting to give up, don't give up. God has heard your prayers. Thank you for this opportunity to come on this platform to just share a little bit about who Stephen Barbie is here in the Kansas City land area.
And also, I believe you have a book out there that is now online. You can purchase it, or you can just give him, send him an email at stephen@stephenbarbie.com, or you can give him a call at 785-764-5704. His book, From Pain to Purpose. Mr. Barbie, I really want to appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. And I really enjoyed the conversation. And it's such uplifting, whereas God has took you from to where he has you now.
Yes.
That's a testimony by itself.
Well, thank you. I want to say, William, thank you for the opportunity tonight, and may God continue to bless you.
I appreciate it very much, and I'll be in contact with you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You heard it there first. That was a testimony. Truly a testimony. I mean, I've had people on my podcast and similar stories, and how God has used that person to turn them around, to come and share their testimony on Stewart Spotlight Podcast. I want to thank you. Okay, moving right along. Next week guest is Kai Lee. Kai Lee will be on next week. He was on last year before he went to college, and he's back from college for his first year of college. We're going to talk to him and see how well did he do. So tune in to next week so we can hear his story. As we get ready to depart, I always leave this one thought. Whatever you're facing, don't quit. Your next step matters. Until then, everyone have a nice and peaceful weekend. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Good night.